9, organisational structures and representing industries. I've chosen my words carefully here because I have no intention of suggesting to people how they might organise their affairs, and certainly not to the rural sector. I would think that that would be presumptuous and rude. But I'll tell you what worked for us. Direct membership, direct lines of accountability. These are the food and grocery and the mining minerals council. We had direct membership. So you get direct lines of engagement and accountability, inclusiveness and equity. They are critical to effective representation in the development and execution of policy. 1, you get that responsiveness this way, and 2, you get that responsiveness that way. Always go for direct membership if you can get it. Your governance arrangements, they should be streamlined and functional, preferably akin to that of a corporation, more so than the old traditional association. You can't have a board that's got 26 people sitting around the table. I'll tell you now, it just don't work. And you know, you don't want a mothers club or a country women's association activity. You want something that's highly functional, highly effective, and is actually about making decisions. Right? You don't. We never had briefing papers that went to the board to note. We didn't do that to note shit. You know, you do that in terms of your governance arrangement. I had a board of directors that were actually there to make decisions. So you want them functional, you want them effective, and you want to run them like a corporation. So when I joined the Minerals Council, they asked me to do that. I set it up as a company limited by guarantee. We moved from having a president, an executive chairman, to a non-executive chairman. They appointed me as a CEO, non-executive director or general manager, and we had 12 directors, and you couldn't be on the board if you weren't a CEO. And you couldn't be on the council unless you were the primary representative of the company and if you had somebody else. And if you missed a board meeting, your seat remained vacant because you were a director of the company. And the reason we had CEOs in there was because they could make decisions and carry those decisions. And I can tell you, you couldn't possibly have gone through what I went through over the last 3 or 4 years on carbon, industrial relations and mining if I didn't have CEOs who could make this. I spent $25 million in 52 days. You don't do that with a Country Women's Association exercise, and I say that with great deference, having grown up with them. Internalise the development and execution of your strategy. But the external intelligence you can buy. But always establish your own capability and functionality within your organisations. You need to have the instinct and the knowledge of the industry if you're going to develop and deliver your own strategy and execute them. Finally, it's to you. I only got a couple of points. Be your own person. I mean this both in the generic for your organisation and you personally in your profession. Establish a reputation by what you do and how you act. That you can't be bought or sold. That you won't be intimidated or silenced. And that you will be heard in the national interests of the industry you represent. I can say all that with a lot of feeling. Be consistent and persevere. Don't flop around like an untethered sail in a breeze of opinion and or who you might be talking to. Remember that if you are prepared to compromise your position with one party to appease one side of the argument or one political persuasion, you can be absolutely guaranteed that they will consider that when it comes to the other side of the coin. So that if the tables were turned, they would expect that you would similarly prostitute yourself for the other side. Don't allow yourself to personalise your advocacy and don't take it personally. And that's probably one of the hardest things to do. If you don't have an arrogant, thick skin, and I don't, it's very difficult to step back and let the criticism and the barbs and all the other shit that you get not affect you. But if I can give you some counsel, you can't have a good game of football if you don't have an opposition. And even if they are Collingwood, you don't have to hate them. There's these Geelong Cats. You don't have to hate them. I rarely do personal profile interviews, but I had to do one because I was forced into it. And the guy said to me, 20 odd years, you must have made a lot of enemies. And I said, well, I hope not. And he said, well, that's a bit naive. And I said, well, I hope not. I said, my late father would be rather distressed if that was the case. And I looked at him and I said, you haven't played any football, have you? You know, he's a classical bloody nerd. And sorry, guys. And he sort of looked at me, and I told him that story about football. And I said, and the other thing is, mate, and those of you in New South Wales probably wouldn't know Gary Ablett, one of the greatest footballers, AFL footballers of all time. We used to call him God. I said, I never saw God get a clip round the ears if he wasn't kicking goals. What's worse than being criticised? Being ignored. So my final comment to you is one of the sayings that I tell my 3 girls through their lives growing up. People will rarely remember what you said. This is Angela Mayer. People will rarely remember what you said. They will rarely remember what you did. They will always remember how you made them feel. Final point, have fun and don't stuff up.